교도소에 계시는 여러분 정말 감사합니다.
Thank you everyone in San Francisco.
제가 당했는 거는 다 말씀하셨으니까 하지만은 죄는 믿지만 사람 믿지 않다는 거는 분명히 얘기합니다. 제가.
I'm not going to go into the details of my story because Supervisor Grandma already talked to you about it. One thing I want to tell you clearly is that we hate the crimes but not the people.
우리 후손을 생각해서 우리는 올바른 역사를 가르치고 올바른 교육을 가르쳐야 된다고 생각합니다.
For the sake of our next generation and children and grandchildren, I think we need to teach them accurate history.
거짓은 드러나지 않습니다. 진실은 분명히 밝혀집니다.
I want to tell you the truth will come out no matter what.
여러분, 일본이 마음을 고치 먹어야 됩니다. 우리는 저희들은 다 살았습니다. 나이 먹은 노인네들이 몇 분 남지 않았습니다. 47명 남았습니다. 이분들이 다 죽기를 기다리는 일본, 그러지 마세요. 당신들도 부모가 있을 겁니다. 이 할머니들이 지금 정신이 없어가지고 다 올바른 말도 못하고 일어나지도 못하는데 빨리 할머니들이 계실 적에 모든 것을 분명히 밝히고 해결해 줬으면 좋겠습니다. 평화적으로.
I want to tell the leaders of Japan to change your mind. We, our generation, we are newly living our lives. We are old people. Actually, in Korea, there are only 47 survivors, and we don't have many people. They are dying off every day. But I want to tell you, the Japanese government, if you are waiting for us to pass away, all of them, please change your mind. If you have your parents, think about it. These grandmothers are so sick. They cannot get up. They cannot talk clearly. But so before they all pass away, I want to urge you to resolve this clearly as soon as possible in a peaceful manner.
누가 뭘 해도 세상이 다 보고 있습니다. 다 듣고 있습니다.
What you're doing is being seen by the whole world, is being heard by the whole world.
Please continue.
예, 사람 진실로 살아야 됩니다.
Human being must be truthful.
일본이 저래도 아마 양심은 있을 겁니다. 일본이 다시 마음을 옳게 먹고 우리 후손들로 올바르게 가르치고 두 나라가 한국과 일본은 이웃 나라입니다. 친하게 지낼 수 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 그러기 위해서는 저는 여자로서, 여자 인권가로서 세계의 여성들을 위해서 또 희망을 주었으면 좋겠습니다. 그리고 저는 운동가로 발돋움했습니다.
I believe most of Japanese people are very conscientious people, so I urge Japanese government to do the right thing, which is to teach the next generation the correct history and give correct education. Because I wish the children of Korea and Japan become friends because we are a neighboring country. And as an activist for human rights and women's rights, who is working for the human rights of all women around the world, I want to give them hope.
여러분 보시다시피 역사의 상징인 제가 왜 군인 방해를 들어가야 됩니까? 군인 방해 들어가지 않는다고 전기 고문이야 축이 났습니다. 몇 분을 축이 났습니다. 그래도 명이 길어가지고 죽지 않고 이렇게 살아 있습니다.
As you can see me, I am here standing as the witness of the history. Why did I have to go through the electric torture? Why did I have to go through the near death so many times? Because I refused to go into the soldier's room. I almost died many times, but I survived.
거짓말은 일본이 하고 있습니다. 저는 바른 말만 하고 있습니다. 한 번도 사과한 적이 없습니다. 저는 공식적인 사과하고 법적인 배상하기를 바랍니다.
Japanese government is the one who's lying. All I'm saying is the truth. I have never received any official apology, so I urge Japanese government to issue an official apology and legal reparation.
일본은 돈을 써가면서 가진 짓을 다 하는 거 알고 있습니다.
I know that Japanese government is spending a lot of money.
저는 더 이상 말하고 싶지 않습니다. 여러분들이 다 아시고 세상이 다 아는 이 문제입니다.
I'm not going to into the details of it because you know about it and everybody in the world already knows about it.
네, 여러분들이 해결해 주시고 또 샌프란시스코에 기념비는 꼭 세워야 된다고 생각합니다.
So I expect you to be able to resolve it, and I urge you to erect a memorial in San Francisco.
여러분들이 힘을 주셔서 제가 이렇게 나와서 말할 수 있다는 거 여러분들께 감사하게 생각합니다.
I am so grateful for you because of the energy you gave me, that's how I can stand here and talk to you.
고맙습니다.
Thank you so
감사합니다.
much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ma. I think the first thing I'd like to convey is that the comfort women stories generally propagated in this country are totally false. They are not true. For example, 200,000 people, that was not true. And sex slaves, that is not true. So one example I would like to give today is that there is a book written by the C. Sarasor, professor of anthropology in this San Francisco State University. She wrote on comfort women. Then she refers to the lady who spoke earlier, Yongsoo. Now, in the beginning, the first testimony she said was, in the early morning, she and her friend quietly left home, went to comfort women recruiter.
Mr. Yama, that's not what she said. Are you calling her a liar?
Then, let me finish.
That's not what she said.
I'm saying what is written in this book. I'm not repeating what she said. I'm telling you, please read this book. Then she was given a pair of shoes and red dress. She was delighted. So that is what is said, is written in this book. So I think you understand that to what extent ex-comfort women testimonies are based on, or at least reliable. Now, general talk about this is, this is for human rights. women's human rights. Now, some of the human rights proponents are showing this picture. This was taken in Glendale. So, I do not believe any of this kind of activity is promoting for women's human rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just hands, please.
자, 네 눈을 봤어?
Thank you. We hope.
누가 거짓말이야? 금방 찌게. 본인이 여기 있는데 무슨 거짓말이야? 거짓말 누가 하고 있어?
How dare say that it was a lie? I am here. You are lying.
본인이 여기 있는데 어떻게?
My name is Peter Kenichi Yamamoto, and I'm a Hapa or Hafu fourth generation Japanese American born in San Francisco. I currently live in District 3. I'm a voting citizen. Sometimes for no reason at all but for a sense of love and justice, a man has got to do what he has got to do. My opinions are mine alone and represent no other person or organization. In view of the fact that 200,000 women of different Asian nations, including Japan, were recruited, coached, and coerced into being sex slaves to the Japanese Imperial Army during the war years until 1945, and were greatly oppressed and injured, I support a memorial to these comfort women as proposed by Supervisor Eric Marr. I think that official and continuous apologies to the women wronged under this Imperial Japanese Army condoned system of bondage and rape are necessary by the Japanese government for peace and stability in the Far East. I think it is the place of justice-minded people everywhere to make comments on this issue of World War human sex trafficking, and that a memorial on city property would be appropriate, as human trafficking is a major problem in San Francisco as we speak. I also say that freedom and justice-loving Americans can distinguish between the war crimes of Imperial Japan and the present-day Japanese community. In view of the city of Glendale's recent experience, it was found that no anti-Japanese backlash could be found. It is improper to say that this backlash has happened or that division has been created. It has not. It is a myth. I stand in unity with the maligned and oft-forgotten comfort women from Korea, China, the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and yes, of Japan and some others in their proud plea for justice and remembrance.
My name is Grace. My support of the Comfort Women Memorial arises from the experience of my own family and community. I'm a Japanese American whose relatives and friends were incarcerated during World War II. I'm the daughter of a Japanese resident of Peru who was kidnapped from his home there and imprisoned in an internment camp in the United States for the purpose of hostage exchange under the World War II Latin American rendition program initiated by the U.S. government. Some individuals in this area and elsewhere have voiced opposition to any attention to this historic experience and the idea of a Comfort Women Memorial itself. Others have expressed concern that the focus and the process of developing a memorial, if not done carefully, could inflame historic prejudices and conflicts, that acknowledging the Japanese government's past role could lead to Japan bashing or racist attacks on Japanese Americans through guilt by association, and that local businesses and community organizations could be threatened with financial or political reprisals. I think many of these concerns are based on fear of threatened and potential dangers because of the first-hand experiences of our families and communities, our own histories, which no one wants repeated. We must take heed of these warnings of potential danger, and should those potential dangers actually materialize, we must stand together to defend our rights. The Comfort Women Memorial is an important opportunity to address our fears and concerns by making connection within and among communities, engaging in dialogue, deepening our understanding of our past, drawing lessons from the challenges we face today, especially the scourge of human trafficking and sexual exploitation of women and children during times of war. We can open our minds, soften our hearts, be compassionate, truly hear and understand each other. For the sake of all our children, we can stand strong together.
Thank you very much, Commissioners and Supervisors. I'm from Los Angeles, California. My name is David Monca. I'm with the Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress, and we successfully fought for redress for Japanese Americans, as Captain Masaoka spoke before me. But today I'm here because I lived and worked in I worked in Glendale for 18 years, and about a few blocks away from the statue in Central Park. And I'm here to tell you that these ridiculous accusations of Japanese children being bullied by the Koreans is absolutely 100% categorically false. And I say this not just by myself, but the public information officer at Glendale City Hall, Sergeant Tom Lorenz, he'll completely validate that. If he said, please call him. Glendale Unified School District officials, absolutely false. And this horrible slur on Glendale was created by a woman named Matsuda, Toshiko Matsuda. She held a press conference in Tokyo in the fall of 2013 after she visited Glendale and tried to dissuade people from doing the statue. She had a press conference and declared this, and since then, Glendale has had to live with this. It's horrible. This is a city, 200,000, about half the size of Oakland. It's a big city. Japanese population is 0.7%, meaning that there's about 1,400 Japanese total, maybe 300 to 400 school children who are Japanese. Korean population is 16%, it's very large. Okay? And 60% is white, so it's hard just to pick out the people. And all throughout this whole campaign, the frivolous lawsuit that they filed was completely dismissed by the judge. All of the plaintiffs, the lead plaintiff didn't even live in Glendale. He lived, Mr. Mera lives in Pacific Palisades. And the one who did live in Glendale, I believe, now passed away, unfortunately. She was 93. I don't know quite how on top of this lawsuit she was, but we suspect her name was used because she lived in Glendale. It's the only one. So what I say to you in conclusion is that please, justice delayed is justice denied. There's only 47 left. We can't waste any time. We need to build these statues while they're still alive. When redress was being denied, each day people passed away. So please, let's hurry it up and get this done and let justice be served. Thank you.
Including the increased sexual violence of women and children that is state-sponsored, not to also mention human trafficking. This is not an attack on the Japanese community. This is about fighting for dignity and justice and learning from history. If we don't put this memorial up or even acknowledge that this is an experience that hundreds of thousands of women have experienced, what are we telling our future? What are we telling our young daughters of today? That it is okay? Is it okay for people to experience sexual violence as casualties of war? This is really a lesson for all of us in this community to learn from our history, and also until these wars of aggressions are over. And we are here today in full support of this memorial going up to acknowledge and respect the women who have experienced this terrible, terrible experience that they did in World War.
The next speaker is Miho King Lee. Thank you for building a thought coalition with the Comfort Women Coalition.
Thank you for the opportunity. I urge you to support this resolution today. It's urgent because as a descendant of the former colonial subjects of the Japanese Empire from Japan myself, I can attest to actual threat of comfort women being permanently erased from existence. Ignorance is a political weapon to establish national consciousness on false pride that Japan fought the Pacific War to eradicate racism from Asia. In October 2014, Japan's national public broadcaster NHK issued a ban on any reference to the rape of Nanking and to the country's use of wartime sex slaves. In the new history textbook adopted by an increasing number of school districts, including Tokyo, Osaka, and Yokohama this year, there is not one mention of Japan's war as that of aggression, nor a single mention of comfort women, nor Nanking massacre, in direct contradiction to recommendations made by the United Nations treaty bodies, including the Human Rights Committee in 2014, Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women in 2009, and Committee Against Torture in 2013, among others. It's important to recognize that anti-memorial movement in the US will actually embolden this historical revisionism. Whatever your reasons, if you don't support this memorial, make no mistake, it will be touted as a victory for the denialists up and down the political food chain in Japan. Nationalism is currently serving as the glue that binds the Japanese current government and its citizens into a unified front infused with ethnic pride accentuated by xenophobia. The increasing assertion that supporters of the resolution must be either Chinese or Korean, or that if you're really Japanese, you'd oppose it. I believe nationalism is creating false division amongst us all who want grandmothers' rights and dignity to be fully restored and women's rights fulfilled. Navi Pillay, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in 2014, stated that the comfort women issue is a current issue as human rights violations against these women continue to occur as long as their rights to justice and reparations are not realized. And we couldn't agree more. And articulated in this article published by the East-West Center, we're advocating for Comfort Women Memorial as a vehicle for understanding and change that can unite all people for women's human rights. And I'd like to submit
contradictions, and there is no solid evidence. In the book, The Comfort Woman, written by Professor C. Saraso of San Francisco State University, I show it here, said, former Korean comfort woman Lee Yongsoo and her friends said that they were recruited by Korean prostitution broker. Lee Yongsoo explained how she was pleased to receive a red dress and a pair of leather shoes from a Korean prostitution recruiter. Yet she testified in front of an UN interrogator that she was abducted by Japanese military. She also testified in front of the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs in 2007, putting on a performance of crying and screaming over an hour. This false testimony resulted in House Resolution 121. Lee Yongsoo has a history of making false statements. We have to stop this chain of fabrication and lies now.
Please stop calling her a liar.
Okay, chain of fabrication now. Supporting side of comfort women's status is well-funded and well-orchestrated, and this is no longer an issue between Korea and Japan. Chinese propagandists backed by their communist government is using this issue to accuse Japan, splitting Asian countries, and adding great turmoil to the city of San Francisco. We have to see carefully who is getting all the benefit by spreading these fabrications. Please stop this Comfort Woman Memorial for the positive future of the United States. Thank you.
My name is Alicia Robertson, and I'd like to submit a petition against the statute in San Francisco. I was very concerned about this issue, and I was not very informed about it. But more I research and find out that both sides are very passionate. Both sides are so human, and I really sympathize with all the people who suffered through the war. I come from Okinawa, a small island of Japan, where the war was most hard. Among all the Japanese, we have lost so many people. So I understand the meaning of the war that I have been told by my grandmothers and my grandfathers. So I really sympathize. But more I find this and do research, something does not make sense. Why does the International Court of Justice do not have enough evidence to prosecute Japan or force Japan to really make an apology? And why is it in 1965 the treaty between Korea and Japan settlement agreement has been settled? And why in 20 years this issue has come up again? This is a propaganda step. I don't think this is going to bring people together, nor peace. I think it's going to divide people. I think it has already been divided. And it has just been concerned. My heart goes out for those people who suffered. But I also want to do not be persuaded by name of justice and name of human right and go in the wrong direction. I think we are going to the wrong direction. Please take a look at these petitions from all those people who pull our hearts saying, stop, do not build a statue in San Francisco. I thank you very much.
Supervisors, thank you for holding this hearing, and thank you for starting a discussion that I, for one, don't believe that resolutions and memorials heal rifts that are clearly as painful as this one is. But I do believe that they provide an opportunity for a discussion. They provide an opportunity for us to learn about wrongs that were done to people, and an opportunity to start that discussion so that things can heal. I just wanted to, I had the good fortune when I was younger to live in Japan for about 10 years and lived in Hiroshima for a little while. In the 1970s, when I went to the Peace Park in Hiroshima, there was no memorial inside the Peace Park for the about 10% of the 200,000 or so who were killed by us dropping the A-bomb in the Peace Park. 1970, Koreans built a memorial, but they weren't allowed to put it inside the park. It was forced to be across this little creek or river just outside the park. But due to the good work of progressive Japanese and Koreans in Japan, some 30 years later, that was corrected. There was discussion. And then there was a decision to put that memorial inside the park in 1999. So we need that kind of discussion if we're going to heal these rifts. I think having a memorial will help us with that discussion, and I applaud those who are supporting it. Thank you.
My name is Judge Lillian Singh. I've been a judge for 32 years. I retired just for this movement. I retired on September 14th, so I can speak on September the 15th. I gave up my career so as to be a champion of this organization. This movement is about justice. I've fought for justice all my life as a judge. It is about time that we give these comfort women a place of rest and a place to be honored. This movement is to honor the comfort women and to tell Japan, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you for doing all the things you did and still not recognize it and apologize. All your effort to try to crush this movement only makes us feel stronger and give us more strength to support this resolution.
And what is behind the Japanese government's effort to deny that this history took place? I mean, denialists of history of Second World War.
I think Japan is very foolish to deny. Germany has admitted guilt and moved forward. Japan has denied because Japan is so ashamed of her conduct that she cannot face it. But by denying it, she is playing into this phenomenon in psychology saying that if you deny, you can never have peace. Unless Japan apologizes and acknowledges her guilt, Asia will never recognize Japan as a leading country. Japan wants peace. We all want peace. Japan must apologize so we can move forward and have peace. I was so shocked and so ashamed of those people who deny that a comfort woman existed. If they deny it, they don't understand history. But what shows me is how successful Japan has been in fooling its citizens, in creating a propaganda to change history. Japan has been very successful in hiding the truth from its citizens, and that's why these poor citizens come up to the stage and say it never happened. It happened, and I'm so saddened by how successful Japan has been in lying to its citizens.
I'm here to support establishing a memorial to the comfort women because I think we need to be educated about what wars do, and particularly to women. I mean, the first casualty of any conflict, any war, is really women and children. And I think that what happened during World War II with the official Japanese government establishing these brothels is absolutely disgusting and intolerable. And people should know about it so that we don't repeat this sort of history. And I think that I am just so thrilled that the people in San Francisco are so supportive of establishing this.
Are you surprised by the Japanese government and their supporters here attacking the grandmother?
No.
And trying to deny that this history took place?
I'm not surprised because although there are many, many peace-loving activists in Japan, there's also a very stubborn conservative group that glories in World War II. And in fact, they are denialists. Instead of being like the Germans, who have really apologized for the Nazi behavior during World War II, there are still enough imperialists in Japan who are proud of what they did during World War II, which was one of the most brutal battles against the civilian population.
Oh, right here. Oh,
If there were a resolution to establish a Holocaust memorial, someone tried to insert language around other genocides. And that was a really interesting question, because it fact that there was a Holocaust, there was a genocide in Rwanda, or in Cambodia, or in Armenia. We embrace the fact that the Holocaust, as unique as it was, is also part of a broader context of human history where people at times massacre other groups of people for who they are. And that doesn't in any way water down our remembrance and our memorialization of the Holocaust so that it never happens again, but it strengthens it. He and I have worked on a modified amendment in terms of recognizing that this did not happen in a vacuum and that there are other countries that have abused women, and I distributed that amendment.
There have been some threats from some individuals in San Francisco that they would not let a memorial on public land. So that's everything from Golden Gate Park to Lincoln Park to even Japantown, where there's a number of memorials from the Peace Pagoda to the California Japantown Landmarks Project monument, bronze monument that depicts Japanese American experience. So it's really an effort to ensure that the most accessible place would be chosen, likely on parks land, like many of our hundreds of memorials and plaques and statues are in San Francisco.
Amendments proposed by Supervisor Wiener and Yee. Colleagues, can we take that amendment without objection? Without objection, that amendment passes.
Some people here at the said that she actually they were not sexual slaves, they were prostitutes. What's your response to that kind of attack that was made on her personally?
Well, we weren't there to be able to say whether or not someone was lying or not. So who are we to pass judgment on any story that anybody says about their own personal experience?
And I understand that members of the Japanese consulate visited members of the Board of Supervisors. What happened with that? Why were they involved in the discussion about this resolution?
Well, it's more they were concerned about the tone and about the accusatory nature and how they felt that, they were being accused of something or being somehow attributed to the fact. I mean, they're Japanese Americans. They work with a lot of the Chinese Americans in this city, and they want to keep a good relationship with the Asian communities in general. So they were concerned the way that it was perceived with the tone of the language and that it would be divisive. And so they wanted to make sure that, yes, this happened, and they acknowledge that this has happened. And they want to support a memorial to that effect to basically remember what's happened in the past. But more importantly, they don't want, to be attacked as a result of, the resolution. And it kind of set the tone in that direction, unfortunately.
The government has spent apparently $500 million in a campaign around the world to say that these incidents did not happen. It's called Denialist.
Well, I want to be clear, the Japanese Americans here in the city and county of San Francisco have not been the people. Well, I want to be clear because but again, that's been the challenge here is we have people in our city, Japanese Americans, who acknowledge that this injustice has occurred. So in terms of what the Japanese government does or any other government does for that matter, that's not my concern. My concern are the people who live here in the city and county of San Francisco.
Militarization nation, the passage of a military bill by the Japanese government to militarize their economy.
I haven't seen a bill, so I can't comment on that. I'm not.
Militarization in Japan, there are thousands of people protesting against militarization in Japan.
So
they changed the constitution in Japan.
So I don't have that. I don't know anything about that, so I can't comment on something that I'm not completely familiar with.
Are you surprised that they came to the Board of Supervisors?
Who?
The Japanese consulate?
No.
You still want to.
Everybody comes here.
So there's a lot of Japanese denialists and the ultra-nationalists from Japan that are writing in. But I know that Grandma Lee and the coalition, we've successfully told the story. And my hope is that Japantown doesn't get infiltrated by the ultra-nationalists that have been trying. But I'll say that there are some Japanese American leaders that have been trying to block this, to deny the history, and they're almost working hand in hand with the ultra-nationalists in Japan. I feel great that we have a unanimous vote, that the power of Grandma Lee and the coalition forced the board to all vote for it. I think the amendments made strengthen it about human trafficking today. and acknowledgments also of what our next steps will be too. But I feel like Grandma Lee, who's come here all the way from Korea, and Phyllis Kim from the Korean American Forum and others, they've really helped San Francisco build a stronger coalition. But I think what's going to make sure that this happens within a year is the strength of the coalition. I've never seen, maybe Steve Zeltzer has seen it before, but the unity between Korean Americans, Chinese Americans, our Japanese Americans, brothers and sisters, and Filipinos as well, and women and girls in the leadership of new coalitions for the future of San Francisco too.
How would you make this a conclusion for the task force?
So I know that there have been a number of Japanese American leaders from the Religious Federation to the J-Town Task Force and others that they're totally supportive, and we want to pull them in so that they are a part of the development of the memorial too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What were your thoughts when people here, Denialists, accused Grandma Lee of lying and not being who she says she was?
I wanted to jump over the chambers, and it made me really angry, and I wanted to try to defend her. But she could defend herself. She's so strong. So I didn't need to do that.
And are you concerned about the militarization of the Japanese government and how they're changing their constitution? And I mean, that seems like they have an offensive position to.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned of that militaristic trend and fascist trend in Japan, but it worries me when they try to get a foothold among Japantown leaders, and then we see some of the Japanese American leaders mimicking the same denialist and ultranationalist positions, and then talking about corporations too, in a lot of ways the sister city relationships in San Francisco. But my hope is that by establishing a memorial, that it sends a strong message that history can't be silenced, strength of Grandma Lee and others can't be squelched by nationalists in Japan or people that keep bringing up facts that have been refuted by historians over and over again. So Chinese, Filipinos, Japanese Americans all feel really comfortable with that it's unifying and about a sense of justice for the future.
Well, what kind of influence do you think this decision is going to have?
Definitely our friends from Southern California and Grandma Lee have given us even more momentum to move this forward. My hope is within a year so that we could develop a memorial like Glendale's or others, but also that we help to provide support for other cities around this country as well, that we know that there are some in LA, in Chicago, other places too. So our Comfort Women Justice Coalition will be supporting other efforts too.
And also the mayor, I know in the past recent, how do you feel about that?
I think it's good that he's at least trying to communicate with us, but I still see him as a shame of Osaka for his previous statements. His letters are about 9 pages. They still deny a lot of the existence of the Comfort Women and try to claim that Japan is exceptional when or is not exceptional, that other countries have done it. But from my understanding of the stories from Comfort Women, the scholars, that it was a wholesale and government involvement in it. The Kono statement and others have been good, but not a formal statement that the victims feel like they've been apologized to. And then for the reparations and the payment of suffering, I know the Asia Pacific Fund was private sector funding. Many of the victims feel like it's nowhere near enough based on what the suffering is. With the 50 existing survivors like Grandma Lee, there are very few left, but my hope is that their voices will be listened to and that women's movements in Japan and Korea and everywhere will continue to keep the pressure on the Japanese government as well.
Not including the people who feel shameful and not standing up. It's about time that we rise up to support these people.
Of course.
And people, some of them remain in silence because in the Asian culture they feel shameful. So they never come like Grandma Lee. And so they suffer in silence. It's a very sad. It's very important to speak up, but sometimes because of the culture and the shame, because it's sexual, slavery is considered to be a shame. It affects the entire life, physically and emotionally. So that's why it's about time everybody stand up and support these people. And that's the least that we can do, as a woman, as a human race, anybody. But it's such a world event, and none of those, young people know about it. and it achieves the objective just as if it's for the Holocaust memorial. They want to advance the knowledge of the event, to preserve the memory of the suffering, and to help the visitors, to reflect on the moral and spiritual questions of the event, and also to teach the next generation. And this statue, exactly answers the same issues, and express the same objectives. And
what did you feel at the hearing last week when some people here, Denialists, said that Grandma Lee was not telling the truth, that she wasn't a comfort woman, she was a prostitute at this meeting?
Yeah, there are different characters of the people. Okay, we cannot guarantee that everybody speak the truth. That's why. And how can a prostitute go around the world to share an experience is so unique, and that is shared by so many women? You know what I'm saying? It makes it even more important to establish a statue to exemplify the truth of the history.
So you don't agree with the Denialists?
Well, if you speed up something, for their own benefit, people would deny.
Why would they do that at this meeting?
To protect their own community. Actually, in Japan, the textbook has been changed about many of these World War II events. How are you going to say about that? That's very important for us to objectively preserve the history, the historical truth. So for the next generation, they will know what has happened. Very, very important. And I was amazed that when I talked to many of you, you have never heard about this story.
You think it
eventually would backfire because you cannot cover up truth, and she exemplifies truth, and she is a very brave woman with an Asian culture to stand up, to share a very shameful past with the objective of helping thousands, millions of women in the future. That number one, she exemplifies courage, that you stand up when you are being abused, being treated unrightly. So that serves a very good lesson for the next generation.
We're here. My name is Ignatius Ding. We're here in support of the resolution to establish the Comfort Women Memorial, because it's not only important history issue, but it also is ongoing violence against women. And it happened back in World War II, 70 years ago, but also happened in the 1990s in the Balkan Peninsula by the Serbs against the Bosnians. Today, the ISIS repeat the same thing. Human trafficking, gang rape, use rape against women during wartime. It's just way too often. We need to speak up.
Why is the Japanese government opposing the memorial for the comfort women? They seem to be organizing here, visiting the supervisors.
Well, the Japanese government wanted to, they call beautifying history. In other words, they want to rewrite history in their favor. They don't think that the Germans are smart enough to cover it up, and they think that they can do better. But I don't think the history will allow them, and history will judge them partially.
Are you shocked that they personally attacked your grandmother and was here at the last?
Well, they have done worse things. Verbal abuse only a pattern of the past, and they're not going to succeed because she's tough, she is just, and she will come back and fight and fight.
여러분들도 감사합니다. 기자님들 감사합니다.
Thank you everyone. Thank